Now, let's take it from, you got your test, you got the results. How strong was your desire to get to the African continent after you got your results?
Well, I had been to the continent before. I talk about that in the book, about some pretty phenomenon that I experienced sitting at the Kunini River in Ipupu Falls, which is the closest southern border to Angola. And interestingly enough, on my paternal side, I share ancestry with the Mbundu out of Angola.
Okay.
Obviously, the Angola prison resides in Louisiana. I have a lot of relatives that's outside of Shreveport, Opelousas, and Louisiana. I have a lot of relatives in Texas. Now I understand how they got there. Now I understand a lot about my father and his temperament. Once I understood the warriors of the Mbundu and why, how Angola came about, and Queen Nzinga, and the history of these warriors, the warrior people, and their pride. A lot of things began to become clear for me, and that was just in my first trip in Namibia. They had never seen an African American in the bush before with the Herero.
Okay.
So there were people in the Herero and the Himba that I was with for 3 months shooting this film. Ken, an English company, they didn't talk to me. In fact, one threatened me because he felt so insulted that I wouldn't speak my language. Oh. So I was in a bit of a pickle.
A little bit.
On the first trip, but I knew I was going to return based on something I talk about that happened to me. I was meditating at the river and I felt a pull, and it jarred me. So I thought someone had pushed me over, and that sensation was trying to get me to walk over the river into Angola. And as I began to kind of have an out-of-body experience about it, why am I going to walk through my boots and my clothes to go across this river? And as I thought about doing that, this Afrikaner from South Africa shouted at me and said, "You can't do that. You cross over the river, there are Angolan rebels over there. They'll capture you and probably threaten to kill you or use you as for ransom." But in my feelings, that I didn't feel a threat. I felt like there was some kind of connection. And it took a lot for me to shut that sensation down. Wow. And now this is before I took my DNA test, and I talk about it. This is in 1999.
Talking about the trip to Namibia, there's a passage that I wanted to read from the book. It says, "As we approached Ipupa Falls, Amanda maneuvered our aircraft in a series of 45-degree angles turns so that I could get some clean shots of magnificent waterfalls cascading off several cliffs. Unlike arriving in South Africa and feeling Cape Town could have been any city, my reaction to setting foot in Namibia was quite different. Once we landed, I got off the plane and dropped down onto one knee, feeling an uncontrollable need to kiss the ground of Mother Africa. I'm home again," I whispered. Tears of joy ran down my cheek. Tell me a little bit about how that, really seeped into your heart and, made you weep.
There's an actor, a colleague of mine named Wendell Pierce. You probably know him for his fame on The Wire. He had been traveling to Africa doing essentially what I'm trying to do, is get involved with whatever investment opportunities he could to bridge the gap. And he had told me jokingly that he said, "Once you get to Africa, brother, for the first time, it's an amazing feeling. You're going to drop to your knees and you're going to cry like a baby." He said, "I assure you." And I was like, come on, man. See him here in New York. I was like, it's not that deep, is it? Blowing him off. So because of that conversation and because of me sometimes being prideful, I talk about how I dropped down to one knee. Now, I was struggling to keep that other knee from coming down, but I have a theory about that. I have a theory that I was only able to go down one knee. It's because I actually hadn't returned to my place of origin. Okay. Now, I'm wondering how I'm going to feel once I get to Angola. I know when I indeed got to Sierra Leone, I did drop to my knees, both knees, because I really felt like there was a downloading process. As soon as I got off that boat, I saw my Aunt Gussie, I saw my Aunt Gloria. It's an unbelievably humbling thing when you see your family in these people's faces, and I talk about that. And I'm used staring at them, and then they have to stop and in their language and ask the interpreter, like, "Why is this fool staring at me like this?" Because it's so uncomfortable. But I'm sitting here like, you got to be kidding me! You look like my family. you know. What is this? You know, it's a beautiful feeling, but quite unnerving if for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. But when we come back, I want you to talk about one of the things that may have been the hardest thing to talk about in the book for you. All right?
Okay.
We'll be right back on Hip Hop Connection. Back on Hip Hop Connection with the one and only Isaiah Washington, talking about his new book. We need to get dirty here.
Of course.
So I know that in this book you bear your soul, you bear a lot of emotion. But what was one thing that was the most difficult thing for you to say, okay, I'm going to release this and I'm going to put this on paper?
Yeah, as you can see, I didn't want to give any more credence or support or piggybacking. I think they rolled my back enough by actually saying the name of my former TV show.
Okay.
And I still don't tend to do that. So I always refer to it as the TV show.
Okay.
Because that's exactly what it was. It was a television show. It was a platform that I believe was set up spiritually and scientifically by design for me to attract the kind of attention and support, good, bad, or indifferent. And I think indifferent is the worst, because if no one cares about what you're doing, then you're not getting anywhere.
Right.
But if at least if they're hating you, at least they're connected. And I always say that, you know, if you're going to hate someone and keep your foot on the neck of their throat, then you have to stay there with them. You know, if you're holding someone down, you're just as connected as the person you're oppressing.
True.
So I knew that I wanted to address a lot of things on that show, and I knew the opportunity that I had. I knew that, my God, this would be the greatest opportunity to be basically, I'm Hopetep, you know, the first surgeon, the first architect, the first engineer, is that I have to represent not only Dr. Burke, but I got to represent every African American that has ever had a level of intellect and a place of position and power.
Right.
I was very well aware of that. My biggest fear was not being credible. And that's why I would spend on my off time. I would literally go into Sentinel hospitals and spend my own time, 3 months in the trauma wards, shadowing real doctors, particularly, specifically African American doctors, and watch how they were being treated with people coming in thinking they were orderlies or not wanting to be touched because they're even in their greatest pain, bigotry would present itself.
Wow.
But after they were saved by that person, they were just begging for that assistance, they were to care. And then I've seen a woman who came in a mink coat that was in pain, blunt trauma, and had this African American doctor to treat her. And then once she was okay, he went in to check in on her again, and she called him, an epitaph. Got up and proceeded to walk out the hospital. Never said thank you for him saving her life.
Wow.
So after seeing that, it began to really hone in the depth of maybe what you begin to feel from Dr. Burke. Is because I was taking those kinds of stories, those kinds of scenarios, and just churning them in my soul. And I always ask the writers that, Shonda, give me less to say. So hopefully people will stop looking at my performance and start feeling me.
Okay.
You know, it's like with DMX, can you feel me? So I was working on a different kind of performance, is that hopefully my community in particular, outside of my community, and everyone else are just fans of my work before the show, would feel me more than they would see me.
Okay.
That's why I think a lot of the things, the press, they didn't know Isaiah. They only knew Dr. Burke. So when Isaiah showed up for whatever reason, no one could really put the two together. You know,
right.
And even today, Dr. Burke is for whatever practical purposes, is almost just as great or as powerful now that Isaiah is no longer on the TV show than he was when I was there. And that's not by accident. That's by design, by me and by Shonda and Sandra Oh at the time.